Browns 23-20 losers here in Baltimore, Mary Kay. They had a chance to steal this game, but a couple of calls went against them. We'll get into those, but let's just start with right after the game. The Browns, while Kevin Stefanski was, before he came out, you guys were sitting in the press room. You could kind of hear what was going on in the locker room on the other side of the door, and let's just say it was not quiet.
No, it really was not. I mean, I've heard yelling coming out of the locker room before after games, but this was just off the charts. They were screaming, they were yelling. I heard the word leadership somewhere in there. And ultimately, I heard that Myles Garrett got these guys calmed down, and then it got a little quiet, and then Kevin Stefanski kind of blew through the doors into the press room and kind of had to compose himself and just stand there and talk to us about this egregious loss.
Yeah, and look, it's obviously starting to get tense. This team is 2-5. Their season is, literally on the brink. They've got the Bengals coming to town on Monday Night Football. We're still a long ways from Deshaun Watson coming back, and the schedule does not lighten up after that bye week after Monday Night Football. So you can certainly understand how losing a game like this, again, where a couple calls didn't go your way, and even though the defense played well, the offense really didn't deliver. You can see how those frustrations mount on this same field where a year ago they got 4 interceptions and still lost the game.
Yes, they were so frustrated after this game. You could see it even on Kevin Stefanski's face, and he is usually a flatliner. You don't see much emotion from him, and you could tell that this one was really upsetting to him too. I think in part because of some of those calls at the end that you're referencing, the OPI, offensive pass interference against Amari Cooper, which I've seen much worse go uncalled, and then of course the false start, the sort of questionable false start on Michael Dunn at the end of the game that forced Cade York into the longer kick, which was blocked. So lots of frustration. They knew they needed this game, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, and look, Cooper took ownership for the play, for the OPI. It is a call you see a lot, but you did see the clear push off. That was a tough call. Nobody really seemed to argue in the moment. That false start was really weird. Still no clear explanation as to maybe did they call it on the wrong guy? Did they mean that Charlie Hewlett moved the ball? I don't know, but that just adds to the frustration. But the bottom line here, Mary Kay, is the defense was better, but not good enough. And then the offense, kind of the same thing. There were some good things, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I thought they really fought hard. Guys that promised to step up really did. Jacoby Brissett did some really, really good things in the game. He was completing a lot of passes, which they really needed to do. But he also turned the ball over again. That did not help. They knew they couldn't do that. They need to be turnover free. They need to play clean football, and they only got 1 takeaway. So they were not able to win the turnover battle, and when they don't win the turnover battle, they lose the football game. So all 5 of their losses have come when they have not been able to win that turnover battle. This really hurt them. This was a heartbreaker for them.
So before we go here, obviously, kind of turn the page, look ahead, that Monday Night Football game against Cincinnati. I know you hate the word must win, the phrase must win, and it's certainly not a must win, they have to win it or they're done, but it sure feels like they got to win that game, figure it out, or they might be done.
Well, it's huge. We've talked about how this was such a critical juncture for the Cleveland Browns, playing these 2 back-to-back AFC North games against the Ravens and the Bengals. And now those 2 teams are tied at 4-3. The Browns have fallen to 2-5. And if they lose to the Bengals next week, it is going to be really, really tough to keep this thing rolling along and to keep these guys together.
And as I mentioned, still a ways to go before Deshaun Watson and a lot of very difficult games between now and then. We'll cover everything that happened, the yelling in the locker room, the questionable calls, all of that. In fact, a lot of it's already up at cleveland.com/Browns.